Hello, friends. In perusing the internet this week, I stumbled upon a short clip of Rachel Maddow being interviewed on the CBS News program Sunday morning. I think it happened about a month ago. I apologize to those of you who saw the program if this is repetitious, but I think it is worth sharing with our community as we grapple with the rise in anti-Semitism that we attribute to what's going on in Israel. For transparency purposes, I need to say that I do not watch MSNBC, nor do I watch Rachel Maddow's show on that channel. I was interested in the interview because it was about her new book called Prequel, An American Fight Against Fascism. In the interview, she talks about how today's political climate echoes the sentiment in the United States ahead of World War II. Now, I had not heard this comparison before and thought it offered a perspective that is important for us today. She addressed the elements that appear when a democracy is under attack by authoritarianism. She said, quote, "We see violence intruding into the political process. We see the scapegoating of minorities and dangerous conspiracy theories. Rising anti-Semitism almost always goes with the rise of fascist ideation," end quote. She says that another key element is a well-funded, comprehensive disinformation assault that makes people believe that there is no knowable truth, distrust journalism, expertise, and science. The show screens some eerie archival footage of a rally of some 20,000 people gathered for a pro-Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden in 1939. Against a large backdrop of a painting of George Washington, these people were standing, arms aloft in a Nazi salute. Maddow states, "Not only were there lots of Americans who didn't want us to fight in World War II, but there were a lot of them who wanted us to fight on the other side with the Nazis." There was a group of very far-right extremists called the Silver Shirts that were meeting secretly in Minneapolis. They were forming themselves into armed cells all across the country to mount a war against the Jews and set up a Hitler-style dictatorship here. A young journalist named Eric Severide infiltrated the group and decided that, yes, they're crazy and they're also serious. Maddow reports about an FBI arrest in mid-January of 1940, after the war had already begun. A group calling itself the Christian Front had stockpiled weapons and bombs at a New York armory. The arrest came about 7 days ahead of the Christian Front plan to murder several congressmen, bomb and firebomb many sites in New York City that they thought were sensitive enough to set off a race war. 18 people were indicted on powerful, incontrovertible evidence, and yet all of them got off with either acquittals or hung juries. They were seen as Brooklyn hometown heroes whose rabid anti-Semitism was an excusable form of patriotism. Maddow went on to talk about the Harmony Club, the second oldest private club in New York, a club for Jews who were restricted from joining other private clubs. A group of prominent citizens, including an ex-general, brought a case to the newly formed House on Un-American Activities Committee. The Jews at the Harmony Club were planning a takeover of the American government associated with the Roosevelt administration, including Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter and Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau. It was all fabricated to turn the American people against the Jews. Maddow goes on to document that some of the many tentacles Hitler had in the United States were quite serious. A well-funded group imported Nazi propaganda into this country and got members of Congress to insert it into the congressional record. Now, once it is a part of the official record, this propaganda can be sent out in bulk mailings all over the United States. When these Nazi propagandists are finally brought to justice, 7 months into the case, the judge dies, and the Justice Department decides not to pursue the case during the war. The takeaway, my friends, is that what we are experiencing now is not new. Our country experienced this in the 30s and 40s. We have to learn from what we experienced. We need to learn from the lessons of history. Maddow says, quote, "We need to protect the Justice Department from political intimidation. We need to protect our political system from the intrusion of violence from paramilitary groups which are illegal all over the country, but we nevertheless have this proliferation of them. We need to protect people even in the lowest level of politics from physical intimidation. We need to protect minorities, and we need to protect the Jewish community from scapegoating and the attacks on them. We need to see that our democracy is strong in ways big and small." End quote. You know, so many of us were raised on American fighting the Nazis in World War II, and we were never taught about the large pro-Nazi contingent in this country before and even during the war itself. As Maddow says, we have forgotten what it took to face up against Americans who wanted us to be a dictatorship like Germany. There was a surprising number of them, and they were very well connected, especially in Congress. End quote. What this highlights for me is that we dare not assume that what is going on today is an anomaly in our own history, and we better take it seriously. No matter what our politics are, we cannot either support or be passive when authoritarian politicians are running for office. We managed to overcome enormous challenges just several generations ago. And we need to be just as vigilant and just as proactive to ensure that our precious freedoms are safeguarded and that injustices against our Jewish community and other minorities are not permitted to occur. So let us move into the new year with greater resolve to get involved and not remain passive or indifferent. Ken Yiratzon, so may it be. Stay safe and be well. Shalom uvracha, peace and blessings.